use mental stops? Hi, it's Charlie giving you today's video. So I've had a question come in from someone who's said, Charlie, I'm a beginner trader and I'm reading it off the other screen here. I have a problem with getting out of bad trades. Recently in one of my trades, the price hit my stop. I was sure that it would bounce back, which it did later. But I got out of the trade because I want to feel comfortable with the idea of being wrong, which that gets a tick in my box. But the only thing is that he'd said here that he was sure it was going to bounce back, but he got out of the trade because he wanted to be comfortable with being wrong. So that sounded like he manually exited the trade at his stop. So I went back to him and said, are you using a physical stop? And he said, no, I'm using a mental stop. So that leads me over to the story of today. So what's the benefit of using a mental stop? Well, I guess if you're using a mental stop, if you're waiting for price to close below a certain level, then you say, well, yeah, it's a mental stop. I will close if my position, if it closes. We'll just use this as a random example here. There's just a 50 period moving average here on this chart. So when price closes below that moving average, for example, it could be anything, then you exit. Or it could be anything else. But the problem, in a way, what that does as a benefit is that if price just comes down to your stop level but then bounces back up, so if it doesn't close below a particular level and bounces back up, you're still in the trade. So there are orders with certain brokers which are a stop on close order. Certain brokers will offer that, and so it will only stop you out once price closes below that given level. But a lot of brokers don't have that facility. So if you're using a mental stop, so let me now take this over and get my pen up. So if you've got a level here and your price has been going up here, and you say, right, okay, this is my mental stop here. So MS, okay, or SL, my mental stop loss. And price starts coming down to it, even more so if you're intraday trading. What happens if a piece of news comes out and then all of a sudden it plunges through? Or what happens if you've been using a mental stop and you're swing trading and it plunges through your level overnight, during the night when you're asleep? But let's assume that you're day trading and it just comes fast and hard through your level. That then takes a lot of discipline to then still manually execute at that point, because now it's gone below where your mental stop loss level was. So you're now taking a larger loss than what you'd actually pre-planned for. And the risk, especially with a beginner trader or a newer trader, or really anyone who's, even if you've been trading 2 or 3 years, is that you then think, oh, it's gone below, well, I'll wait for it to come back up, and then I'll exit if it comes back up. But what if it doesn't and it just carries on coming down? And all of a sudden, what starts off as a vanilla trade, so just a standard trade, then can become potentially a car crash because you've allowed it, because you've not used the stop loss. So the risk with using a mental stop is twofold. The discipline to actually execute at that level, and the potential for slippage on like a fast move that does happen in the markets all of the time, and all of a sudden you take a larger loss than you would otherwise take, and the risk is you then think, oh, I'll wait for it to come back up, and then it doesn't, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. So should you use mental stops? In my view, no. So a stop on close order is something different, and that's fine because that's an order in the market. If you're reliant on a mental stop, then you're also reliant on your own discipline. You could be fine with that 9 times out of 10, and it will be that 10th occasion that maybe you're fatigued, maybe you've already had a couple of losing trades which have come down only to then come back up again. And you've come through your mental stop, you've closed them out, and only to then come back up again. and you get into this next trade, it comes all the way down to your mental stop, and you think, oh, it'll go back up this time. I've had a couple of losers recently, I'll hold on. And then what happens? It doesn't do that, and it just rolls over and keeps going. So it's too much of a risk. So please don't do it, is my response to that. And hopefully that's of some use to people out there, because a lot of people just use stop losses and they don't think anything of it. And yet there are, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people all around the world, if not running into millions, who don't use stop losses. And it's those same people that don't use stop losses where we hear those car crashes where they blow up accounts because they just sit in a trade once it's gone against them, and it just keeps on going and going and going until they blow up. So yeah, please don't do it. I'm trying to offer as much advice as I can, and one part of trading which is a non-negotiable is not using stops.